Hi, my name is Jake Harrison, and in this video, we're going to be talking about emerging technology in music education. First, I want to give a little bit of background about who I am and what I'm studying, and why I think a lot about how technology applies to music and specifically teaching music. I went to get my undergraduate degree at CU Denver and graduated with degrees in recording arts and a minor's degrees in physics and research method. From there, I spent a lot of time teaching music. These are photos of some of my students playing shows and in rehearsals. Eventually worked up to becoming the music director at the School of Rock Chapel Hill, where I realized I really liked building curriculum and thinking about like systemic ways of teaching. And that landed me at UNC Chapel Hill, where I am currently in the master's program for educational innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship, where I spent a lot of time thinking about why we teach things the way we do, how we can use technology to improve the things that we teach, and how to actually make it feasible in the current education climate. So through all of this, I have developed a theory about music education and how we need to do it and kind of what the current shortcomings in the system are. So to understand that, we're going to talk a little bit about three areas of music that I think are important for any professional musician to develop, which giving students these skills should be the aim of music education, right? So the first is technical skills. This is, can I do the thing that I want to with my instrument? Can I make it make the noises? And a subset of this would be performance skills. So can I do the thing in real time on stage? The next is conceptual skills. This is, can I make sense of music and what I am doing, and can I communicate that idea to other musicians? And final is creative skills. And this is, can I make my own work? Do I have compositional skills, songwriting skills, and do I have framework to make sense of creative ideas? And if you have all of these, then you have a balanced musicianship skill set and you're ready to exist in the professional musician world. And what I've noticed about music education as it is right now is it's really, really focused on technical skills. So you think about choir classes, orchestra classes, even at School of Rock, which is a kind of progressive music education place, all of that is really super centered on technical skills. Conceptual skills are hit a little bit in it, but creative skills are nowhere to be found. And with that, if you don't have creative skills, you don't have a balanced musicianship skill set, and you're not ready to be a professional musician. So these are really the kids that we are letting down in the current climate, right? These are the kids that want so badly to understand music and be musicians that they are foregoing the entire music education system, and they're doing it themselves in their basements, right? And that's not ideal. So I spent a lot of time thinking about these kids. I was selfishly one of these kids. And I think a lot about how we can make music education work for them and work for everybody better. So this is a presentation about emerging technologies. So I went through all that background because this is kind of frames the way that I talk about technology and why it matters. So you'll hear me talk about technical skills and conceptual skills and creative skills throughout this, because I think those are really core to understanding technology in an education way. So I have gone through a bunch of different technologies and kind of put them into four buckets. These are immersive content technologies, real-time feedback technologies, barrier-lowering technologies, and non-traditional music interface technologies. I think all of these are important. All of these can improve the learning experience for students and also improve the teaching experience for teachers. So we'll go through a whole bunch of these, and I'll show you the ones that I think are really cool and important. So the first off is immersive content technologies, and these are things like VR. A lot of different companies are making VR music content, and this is basically just go to a concert in VR, which is really cool because as a teacher, you want students to understand the context of music and you want them to understand the environments that it happens in, But you can't always take your students to the opera house or to a cathedral or to a grimy, grungy punk venue. But that experience is very core to understanding music. So with a VR headset, you are able to bring your class to those scenarios and let them experience it with a lot more ease than getting together a field trip and taking kids to some of these places. So Hulu and Napster both are subscription services that offer VR concerts. NextVR and Melody VR are both services that you pay per experience. So you buy like a ticket to a virtual concert, basically. And they're available on various platforms. Some are only for Oculus or more heavy-duty headsets, but some will work on even just Android and iOS devices, which make them really accessible to classrooms. So I think these are a really good tool that teachers should be tapping into. The next is real-time feedback technologies. And on the side here, I've got this picture of Guitar Hero, because Guitar Hero, I think for a lot of people, introduced this idea that a game can give you feedback in real time about relevant musical things. So in Guitar Hero, you're punching the buttons and you're doing the flipper, and it'll say if you're late or if you're early and all the thing. And it's a kind of natural development of the idea to go, well, what if we just used a real guitar and did that same type of thing to teach kids how to play the instrument? And that came around in Rocksmith. So you have this special cable, but you use the special cable, you plug into your PC or Xbox or PS3, and you can play. It was pretty good, but the problem is it had a little bit of delay. You had the special cable, you had to run it on an expensive console, and those things are not conducive to running it in a class for students. You know, that takes a lot of setup, and it's not going to be feasible for most schools. So the emerging technology is things like Musician, and there's a lot of platforms out here, but I picked Musician just because I think it is probably the most robust of these. It doesn't lock you into just guitar. You can do guitar, bass, ukulele, or keys, and it gives you the experience of that Rocksmith would do on a full console, but it's right on your phone. It uses the onboard microphone. It listens and gives you real-time feedback, and I'm going to show you a little bit of Musician right now so you can see how it works. So here we are in Musician. I'm going to play a little bit of this. Oh, baby, and you can see the notes you get, it lights up. Nice. But if you start making mistakes, it'll show you how. So you see, even if I make mistakes on the wrong string, it'll even show me, hey, you're down a string. So this is the kind of idea, you know, you can obviously imagine how this can be a pretty powerful practice environment. Because you see right in front of you, if you're making mistakes, it goes red. If you hit it right, it goes green. And it's a very, very simple, very easy to see. And it's fun. It's gamey. It gives you coins and points and whatever. It's a pretty sweet platform. So Musician isn't the only platform like this. There's Riaz, there's Sing Sharp, there's a whole bunch of piano-specific ones. But they're good. And the thing that I think a lot of musicians and music teachers dismiss these is that these have been around for a while, and they've always kind of spoken a big game, but they've always been bad. And so, admittedly, myself, I wrote these off for years as not being good, and really just maybe 6 months ago tried these and was like, okay, the technology is actually here. These are usable. The content is here. So these are a fantastic way for students and teachers to work on technical skills and a little bit of conceptual skills as they have some exercises that run students through drills. All right, the next category is barrier lowering technologies. And barrier lowering technologies are those that make it possible to do something in a classroom that previously was not possible due to expense or needing specific gear or needing really specific teacher knowledge to set it up. And I've got the picture of the Chromebook here, and I have this exact Chromebook. I love it, but it's not a good piece of technology. So if something can run on a Chromebook, it has reached accessibility. So my baseline for being ready for mass adoption in schools is it runs on a Chromebook for free in a browser. And these technologies do. So before we go into this, I want you guys to listen to this for a second. All right, why did I have you guys listen to that? Because it's the best piece of music? No, it's not the best piece of music, but I made this piece of music for free on a Chromebook in 30 minutes, and it sounds pretty good, right? It'll work, and if students can produce music at this quality, that's fun, that's inspiring, that's going to catch their interest, and there's a lot to be learned in formats like this. So the software that I made this in is called Soundtrap. It's made by the company that makes Spotify, and it is an in-browser DAW, which is a digital audio workstation that lets students make music with a whole bunch of digital instruments that they can control either by tapping on their phone, or they can hook in a keyboard. They can use MIDI devices. It's very accessible. You can use kind of what you have, and it'll work. With this, I think this is really impressive to me because studios used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars just a few decades ago. And over the course of the years, that's been dropping and dropping and dropping, to the kind of the rise of the home studio, where you can get a really good microphone for a few $100. You can get a good interface for a few $100, some monitors, a few $100, right? And this has just bottomed it out, right? It is free software. Yeah, you can pay for premium features, but the basic functionality is there for free. It runs on a $200 Chromebook. You can use any crappy headphones, and you can just go and make music. And that is super cool to be able to give to your students. And the collaborative features means that it's useful in a class, right? You can, as a teacher, you can oversee how your students are using it. You can come in and get them unstuck. You can put them in groups and have them have important conversations about music together. There's a ton to be learned here. So this is really cool. The next one is Flat.io, and Flat.io is an online in-browser transcription tool that lets students make sheet music that looks very, very professional and clean. They can listen back to it and hear that their piece sounds like they want it to sound like. And this also allows collaborative features. So you can put multiple students in one score and have them work through it. So there's tons of great lessons to be learned here. And again, just getting this tool to students is awesome. There's so many powerful ways to use this in a class. And the last one of these I want to talk about is a little bit different from the others. This is MIDI 2.0. And MIDI 2.0, MIDI stands for the Musical Instrument Digital Interface, and it's been around since the 80s. MIDI 2.0 has been in development for like 15 years, and it just got demoed at the last NAMM. And it's a new way that devices can communicate with one another. So where before it was pretty difficult to hook up a bunch of independent music devices, what MIDI 2 is promising to do is make it so it's one cable, you hook it together, the devices can talk, tell each other how they want to be configured, and just go. Which before, if you were a teacher and someone was like, well, let's use some new technology in classes, you'd say, well, I have to go read a bunch of manuals, and it's going to take a bunch of time, and maybe I'm not familiar with this music gear, so it's going to be difficult, right? Well, this is going to be a technology that makes it simpler to hook everything together. It's going to make all of your old gear still work with the new gear, which is fantastic. So MIDI 2.0 is going to be kind of an invisible technology advancement that things just kind of work better together, which is amazing. So it's sneaky, but it's helpful, and it's lowering those barriers. All right. The last category I want to talk about is the non-traditional music interfaces. And to the right here, I have one of my favorite of these. This is a Korg K-oscillator. And this is a great way to think that as everything becomes more digital, so do instruments, right? There's no need for a digital instrument to look like a previous existing instrument. So why don't we just get crazy with it? So when you introduce non-traditional music interfaces to students, it's actually a really good time to recontextualize musical information that they have and try to make sense of this new interface. And there's a lot of learning that can be done through that. One of the things that I think is more important is that when you start thinking about non-traditional music interfaces, you can make really customizable interfaces that are way more accessible than previous instruments. So this picture in front of us is a Jambox controller. And what a Jambox controller is it's a MIDI instrument that's controlled with the breath and with head motion side to side. So this allows students and musicians with paralysis to make music, and it basically can hook to a computer and make whatever sound they want. So it can sound like traditional instruments like horns or clarinets or strings or whatever, or it could sound like synthesizers, right? It's very customizable. And going down that thread of what is customizable, we have things like the special waves. So these little blocks that you see here are magnetized, and you can snap them in any order that you want to make your own configuration of knobs and sliders and buttons. And so this is really helpful if maybe you have restricted hand movement and you need buttons to be in a really specific place. Well, this lets you do that. And the last one of these is kind of just the complete customization option. This is Daisy, and Daisy is a chip that is a no solder platform for creating your own musical devices. And so it combines with Arduino kits, and you code it with C++, and it just basically lets you do whatever you want. If you want to hook in a bunch of arcade buttons and have those control different parameters, you can. You can put those anywhere you want in your space, and they're going to work. It's going to be sweet. You can have foot controllers. You could use a Jambox mouth controller. So Daisy is kind of this just meeting point for any type of hacked together interface you want to make. And the best thing about Daisy is that it costs like $30. These got kickstarted last year. They're actually shipping this month. And this is something that I get really excited about. I think this is super, super cool. Obviously for accessibility, to make everybody be able to make the music they want to make, but also there's so much merger of technology in music, coding in music, that are rich educational opportunities that I think teachers should be taking advantage of. So I want to end this with just this thought that the tech is out there and we just have to start using it. So a lot of this technology that we talked about is not super emerging still. A lot of it is there and it's good. And what is emerging about it is that it hasn't really worked its way into the musical education infrastructure yet. And so as this technology gets better, we need to make sure that we're keeping curriculum current to take advantage of it and leverage it in really important ways. All right. Thank you for watching.